All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Last video, we were talking about the Spartans and Athens and basically showing you how they were. This is a setup to this lesson because I wanted you to see what kind of people they were. So if you did not watch that video or if you weren't in that class for that lecture, um, I would suggest you watch the video or rewatch it because I want you to see how they were as people, what kind of mentality each one had, and you're gonna see what happens next. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So the objective today, we are going to basically come to conclude if the Peloponnesian War was inevitable. You're going to be learning about that war today. It's pronounced Peloponnesian, okay, just in case you're wondering. Um, Analyze the impact the Greeks had on modern day art and philosophy, and critique the method of questioning things that have no definite answer or solid answer. We're going to look at what's the whole point of philosophy? There's no really, a lot of times you don't come up with a straight up answer. It's like there's more questions sometimes instead of an answer. So we're going to look into that. Okay. So yeah, today is the start of the fall of Greece. This is where the Greeks empire basically goes down. Okay. So here's your warm-up picture. I basically tell you, what do you see? Okay. What do you see going on here? Now, those of you guys, I told you not last the video, not last lecture, but the one before, I told you guys to pay attention to the symbols of what each one means. So if you paid attention and you remembered, um, this will really, really help you out in telling you who each group is. Okay, so if you have no idea, I would suggest that you go back and watch that video. Um, Maybe not right now, but later on, because there was some good information on there. Okay, so um, the other one is, I believe it's like, who do you think is going to win? I think that's the second question to this. All right, so go ahead and answer the question. Pause the video if you're writing, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing. After the Spartans fight with the Persians, as you guys may have known if you watched the movie 300, at first they didn't win. Those 300 soldiers fought bravely, but they died. Um, but eventually the King Xerxes and his men were pushed back by the Spartans and Athens and a couple other tribes that they were friends with. Now it came to the part where Athens and Sparta were like, it's inevitable. We got to fight, because they were both becoming so big and so powerful. Spartan and their allies believed basically that Athens was becoming too big, too powerful. You know, they were gaining land, they were spreading their influence, and they were basically like, you should be like us. And Spartans, you should have learned from the last video, were very much in their way. What they believed is what they believed, and they're not going to take anyone's, influence or let them change their culture. So this led to a series of arguments between Athens and Sparta, and led to the Great Peloponnesian War in 431 BC. Now, they're fighting. Now, remember, this is not like every single day they're fighting. It's like they would have a battle for however long, sometimes months, maybe years, and then they would stop, you know, and then fight again, or they would fight for like a month, and then one of them would retreat, the other one would try to follow, and then, somewhere else there might be another fight. So it's not like there was constant fighting every single day, 24/7 type of thing, okay? But the thing is, in 405 BC, the Athens had a bad defeat. Their fleet was destroyed. Okay, at Helen's Point, and that really, really hurt them. And then a year later, they basically surrendered. All right, so the Athens lost. Now, with that happening, Sparta's like, yeah, let's do this, and they basically destroy Athens. They tear down walls. The navy was dismantled. The Athenian navy was completely destroyed. The empire that was Athens was gone as well. Now, the thing is, Athens did play a huge role in the expansion of Greece, the influence of Greece. And here are the Spartans, one of their own Greek people, basically destroying it as well. You know, why? Because they're not like us. We're this and that, and so they, in a sense, weaken the Greek states. Because again, Athens did play a significant role in what was going on in that area, and basically the loose friendship between city states, you know, they started to crumble. They're like, well, I don't trust you because you're probably going to attack us like the Spartans did. They attacked Athens, and so they stopped trading. They kind of kept to themselves. They were more looking at each other like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And while they're having suspicion amongst themselves, looking at each other, fighting each other, there's another enemy that they're no longer looking at, that they were before. They were keeping an eye on them, but now that Athens is gone, they're not looking at this enemy, and they were known as the Macedonians. And while the Macedonians, they're looking at what's happening in Greece, and they're like, okay, let's get our army together. Let's build up our strength. Let's get the numbers, make alliances, you know, build some ships, stuff like that. So they're gathering up their strength while Athens, or I should say Greek states, are fighting each other and suspicious of one another. Now we get to the question, and this is, again, what you think. Tell me what you think. When do you think is the best time to attack an enemy? Is it when they're distracted and not paying attention? When they lower their defenses or limit them? They're like, they have the biggest army and this and then all of a sudden they're like, the army's kind of relaxed or not as attention and things like that. They're not ready for fighting, or they lower their numbers of soldiers. Or when they're recovering from a fight. They just had a fight, a war or whatever, and they're now recovering. So when do you think is the best time? So you tell me which of those three is the best time to attack. If you can think of something else, another type of scenario, awesome. But be sure that it's realistic, you know, nothing like, and again, realistic is the key. But if you put something like, I don't know, after a nuclear war, no, there's no nuclear war going on. That's not, and even then, if you were near a nuclear war, you'd probably be gone as well. So tell me what you think and why. There's the writing prompt on the bottom. As you can see, the options are in green. I put where you should put that. That's where it goes in the green. And the because, your explanation, your justification for that's the best time to attack, in your opinion. Okay, so think about it. Really think about when would be the best time that you think be the best time to attack. Okay, so pause the video, write that out in the Google Docs. We're going to be moving to the next slide in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're looking at the Greek contributions to the world at this point. All right, now Greek experienced a great intellectual and cultural growth. They expanded so much when it came to art, philosophy, that it basically influenced the Western art and things how are done today. It basically made it a standard. This is the way it's supposed to be, supposed to look like, things like that. Now their art expressed has four four type of ideals. One is reason. Second one is moderation. Next one is balance, and the last one is harmony. Right? If you really think about all four of those kind of merge together, you know, um, reason, what's the purpose, things like that. Moderation. Don't put too much. Don't put too little. Just enough. And that goes hand in hand with balance. There has to be some type of balance in what the thing is. It can't be too much on this, too much over here. If it's all, you know, let's say all white, there's no contrast. So you need some type of darkness in there. You need some type of, at least shades of gray to give it definition, give it some type of contrast that you can see it better. And harmony, it should flow. So if you look at the statue above, the guy with the discus, there's just a flow to it. From the hand to the head, torso, down the leg to the foot to the base of it. It just flows. You know, um, reason. The pottery tells a story, part of the history, whatever it may be, and it has a purpose. You can put things in it, right? But the thing is, art didn't just limit itself to statues and potteries. It also went to architecture, buildings. Buildings can be art as well. And the classic architecture was built in Athens. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people talk about the Egyptians. Yeah, they had the pyramid, which was just straight up like, up. And again, triangle is a basic shape. But when uh, Greece came out, they started building straight up and tall. And people to this day are like, it kind of looks weird. It looks like because the thing is, if you stand right on top on one of these bases, you look up, it looks like it's gonna fall on you because those buildings are built straight up. But the Greeks basically found out that if you angle it just a little bit, tiny bit, like I think it's like 13 degrees, 11 degrees, something like that, and you stand at the foot, you look up, it looks like it's going straight up. You know. So if you ever go to like LA or any other big cities, San Francisco, some of that, go to a really, really tall building, go to the very base of it and look up and it'll look straight. Because if you those buildings get getting taller and taller and taller and taller, and you let keep going, 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 eventually they get to a point. Because again, triangle is a sturdy shape. Okay. And if it's straight up even, one sway one way, it's gonna topple. Whereas if it's angled a little bit, if it sways one way, there's still that balance. That's why the skyscrapers don't fall when there's heavy winds up high in the sky, because that's why, and also the material they use. But that's now. Okay, so the most famous is this picture or this building, the Parthenon. That is one of the most famous Greek structures ever, and it's still up to this very day. Earthquakes, wars, things like that have gone through this area, and yet they still stand. It's absolutely amazing. So, your question is this: I want to know who is the most artistic person you know. Is it a family member? Is it a friend? Is it somebody a neighbor you once knew? Things like that. And what was the most impressive thing that they made to you? Was it a drawing? Was it a painting? Was it a spray painting? Was it a sculpture? I mean, what did they create that made you go, damn, man, that person's good, you know? So what did they do? And yes, tattoos count. Someone doing tattoos, you know. Um, and again, remember the question is a person you know, not someone on YouTube, someone you follow on Instagram. No, no, none of that. Someone you know that you can like quite literally if you were to call them or see them on the street, you'd be like, hey, so and so. They would be like, hey, you, hey, at least that, you know, that they would know who you were, Not some famous YouTuber or some famous person you saw on TV. No, someone you know. And what did they make that made you go, wow, this person is talented when it comes to art? All right. So go ahead, pause the video. We are moving on in 3, 2, 1. So now we're getting to philosophy. Now, philosophy is truly one of the most influential things that the ancient Greeks gave us to actually think about life, to ask basic questions. And there are some questions that they asked back then that are still debated to this very day, such as, why are we here? What is man's purpose on this earth? That's still one of the questions that has not been answered, you know. And that's what I mean, like I said at the very, very beginning. Uh, what's the point of asking questions which there's no definitive answer? And that's where philosophy comes in. You know, we ask these questions because we want to know, and it's sometimes good to hear what other people think, because then you'd be like, that's a pretty good idea. I think that works. I like that answer. You know. Now Socrates, he was actually a sculptor. You know, he would make sculptures like you see right there. That's actually one of him. But the thing is, he would do that. But he was also a great philosopher, right? The problem is Socrates wrote nothing down. Absolutely nothing. He would say these great things, really thoughtful insights into life and uh, work and government, things like that. But he wouldn't write anything down. But the thing is, he had students, pupils, and these guys kept notes. They wrote down everything he said, especially this one called student called Plato. Now, not Play-Doh, Plato. Okay, um, he would write down what Socrates would say. He's like, okay, this is cool. This is a good idea. All right. So they got down his questions that he would ask his students, ask other philosophers, and basically record his ideas, what he thought, what his interpretation of what this was. You know, he also developed a teaching method that is still actually used to this day. It's actually one that I use myself quite a bit, in which the teacher uses question and answer formats so that it leads a student to basically see things for themselves. So kind of like the self-reflection thing, you know, what would you do with this situation? What would you do in this thing? If you were here, what would you do? And basically, you're using your own reasoning, your own thoughts, your own experiences to come up with the answer. You know, um, so in like the question I asked earlier, you know, if you were going to attack, what would be the best time? Because some of you guys may be playing your Call of Duty and you're in a situation like that, and it's a game, you know, but still, it's some type of experience. Some of you guys may watch a movie and be like, oh, that's stupid. I would have done that. I would have done this because it makes more sense. You thought about it. And I'm trying to put you in that situation where those people were back then, and what would you have done? So you're using your own reasoning, you're using some type of experience you may have had, whether it's real life or just like even playing a video game type of thing, and you're responding. You're giving your ideas. So again, I use this method quite a bit. And it all started with Socrates. All right, so Plato, the student of Socrates, he is considered truly one of the greatest philosophers of all time. All right, Plato wrote down everything he wrote and thought and stuff like that in question. He questioned a lot about reality, things happening now, things that are going on in people's lives. He wrote a lot and thought a lot about um, government. He wrote a book called The Republic. Um, I actually have a copy of it, and it's actually pretty good. It makes you think. He believed that a person could not achieve a good life unless they lived in a place where logic was appreciated and that there was justice. There's some type of laws, you know, so if someone does something wrong, they get punished, you know, type of thing. He believed men and women should have the same education. He's like, they're the same as us. You know, they believe the same, they think the same type of stuff, so they should have access to knowledge as well. Also, access to all jobs. Not just a man job, because a man could be a merchant, but so can a woman. A woman can sell stuff. Some of the best people who sell things are women. You know, they know how to talk, they know how to convince. Do you really need to buy all this stuff? No, but they talked you into it. You know, so that's what Plato believed, that women played an integral role and that they should be included in everyday life, not just men. Okay. So here's some question. This is one I've been asking students from, I think, my second year in education till like now. I still ask this question. What do you think about this quote by Plato? He says, wise men talk because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. All right. So wise men talk because they really have something to say, whereas fools, they talk because they have to say something, whether it's gibberish or just nonsense or whatever. They have to say something in response. They have to say something. So, what do you think about that quote? Do you think he's right or do you think he's wrong? That wise men talk because they have something to say, but fools, they just talk because they want to talk. So what do you think? Let me know. All right. So pause the video if you're not done writing, which you should not be. It should not take you 30 seconds to write, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So just like Socrates, Plato had his own students and pupils, and one of the most famous of his students was Aristotle. Now, Aristotle right here, um, he was a student of Plato for 20 years. Imagine having the same teacher 20 years. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved some of the teachers I had. Some of them were the best people, best educators I've ever known. But spend 20 years of my life with that person, learning from them, I don't know about that. So, yeah, but the thing is, Aristotle stuck by Plato's side and learned so much from him. And the thing that made uh, Aristotle unique was that, unlike Socrates and Plato, who questioned things and just sat and thought and talked to one another, Aristotle actually went out and investigated. He actually looked at people, looked how they were, looked at what they said, their behaviors to different situations, peacetime, wartime, when there's bad situations going on, food shortage, there's talk rumors of war, there's talk of new laws, things like he watched people how they reacted. He really was a student of people. Okay, and he didn't just limit himself to philosophy. He branched onto all kinds of subjects: ethics, logic, poetry, geology, biology, astronomy, physics. So he really was a jack of all trades, right? And one of his most important contributions was that he focused on government. What is the purpose of government? What could people live without a government? If there was no laws, how would people react, more or less? You know, and then, of course, he went out and investigated to see which government was the best. He wanted the answer, which was the best. So he went out and visited 158 states. All right, 158 states, went around watching people doing all this other stuff, but mainly looking at the government. How does it function here? How does it work? Are the people happy? What's the good thing about it? What's the bad thing about it? He really investigated. Okay. And at the very, very end, he came up with this idea that, okay, there's not just one that's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect government, but there are three that actually are very effective. Of all the governments I've seen, you know, there's three. Again, we talked about the force theory, divine right theory, evolutionary theory. He saw them all, and he was like, okay, there's three that um, really are good: monarchy, aristocracy, and constitutional government. Those three. He goes, those are the three that work. All the other ones, they're bound to break down. Sooner or later, they're going to crumble and fall. So, here is your question. Do you feel at a certain age people just, they're supposed to be stop learning, not stop learning or stop wanting to learn? What do you think? So, if you think that, hey, yeah, at a certain age people stop, what age would you say, more or less? Would people like stop wanting to learn things? Um, and Why do you think that happens at that age, more or less? Why do people stop just learning, stop trying to improve themselves and things like that, or stop looking at what's new, what's happening, what's, new with technology, culture, things like that, right? The next one is, or the thing is also, if you think, no, people, um, there is no age where people stop, why do you think people try to learn things when their minds and bodies aren't as fast as they once were? There are some things that, like computers, phones and things like that, tablets. And older people, I'm sure you've seen the videos, they have trouble functioning with computers because everything is now on computers, new apps, things like that. You know how to use things on the computer, the fastest way to find things. Whereas older people, they're more used to going to a certain store to get something, or paying their bills, writing a check, putting it in the mail, and now everything's online, digital. Um, So why do you think they try to do this at an age where their minds are not as fast or not as functioning as fast as it was when they were in their 20s and 30s, you know, and their bodies again aren't as um, flexible, aren't as strong as they were back then, so that they're kind of like, getting tired, things like that, um, kind of like, what's the point, So again, if you think that at a certain age, tell me what it is. And why do you think this happens at age? If you think that you never are too old to learn, why do you think people never stop, even when their bodies are failing them? Okay, so give me your answer. Let me know what you think. And we're moving on in three, two, one. And we have come to the end. So tell me something that you learned today in this class. There's quite a bit, of stuff. So hopefully you're able to retain that knowledge because we will be having a test soon, and hopefully you took notes and things like that. Um, but yeah, that's it. So you guys have a good day. You guys take care. You be safe.